Hi everyone. For my unit of study, I focused on the art of illustrations and creating a children's book. Before we go on, a little bit about myself. My name is Emily Swafford. I teach in Kentucky, and this is my third year teaching. I teach at a middle school in grades 6 through 8, that's to about 400 students total. Like I previously mentioned, my unit plan is about the art of illustrations and how to create a children's book. So I'll go through each of my slides on my unit to give you more information about it. This unit is originally created for middle school grades 7th and 8th, but it could be modified and extended into high school students. In their classes, or even simplified into younger student classes like fourth and fifth grade. I have seen similar units before in the past when I did student teaching, and I have seen students be able to create this even in elementary grades as well. My unit is all in a PDF document format, and it will be available through Google Drive. This PowerPoint also includes slides for the unit, which you'll have access to, like the ones I'm showing you. And then after this, there's also more slides to go along with the unit. This unit is originally planned to be about 2 weeks long, but it could be longer depending on if the lessons were stretched out or if anything else was added. There's also 4 lessons total within this unit. This slide breaks down my unit into each of the lessons that you can see what each lesson focuses on. So, like in lesson 1, we would focus on character designing and artists, like the illustrators, and look at different children's books. Lesson 2 would be more about storyboard, creating and writing the actual story. Lesson 3 would be creating the book and doing the illustrations and creating the actual thing, which would be the longest part. And then lesson 4 would be the final part, which would be presenting their final children's book to the class. And that's when they would get their grade overall. For this slide, I've included all 4 of the main objectives that students would be working toward when completing this unit. This would be to demonstrate how they've accomplished their objectives and their learning throughout the unit. So I broke them down into 4 lessons. Each lesson has one objective. Each lesson is it's connected to each lesson and the activity that would be completed, and they're also all measurable as well. And they would connect back to the projects that would be completed in each lesson. Okay, so this slide is about my assessments. I included 3 formative assessments and 1 summative assessment. So in lessons 1, 2, and 3, those would be formative assessments, and they'd be based on the projects that they complete during that lesson. And then lesson 4 would be the summative assessment. So you can see in lesson 1, the students would be assessed over their character design. Lesson 2 would be about their handouts, which you'll see in a minute. Lesson 3 would be a critique that we would have as a class halfway through their book so that they could get feedback and fix whatever they need to. And then lesson 4 would be the final assessment, which would be the summative assessment, and it would be graded through a rubric when the students presented their books to the class. And this is an example of the handout that they would, the handout that I would use, because it has the rubric that I would grade through 5 different points, and the questions part that they would also be asked throughout their presentations. And it would all be written in notes on this paper and then handed back to them once it was completely graded. This slide includes 2 examples of handouts that would be used in lesson 2, and they're also part of the formative assessment, like I said. This slide includes old and new images of my artworks that this unit is based off of. The top 2 are digital drawings, and then the bottom 2 were the first drafts of my children's book pages, so you can kind of see the improvements and the differences between media. So the bottom were watercolor and the top were digital. And so those are the current pages that I'm using in my book, and the students would reference these as well as other children books throughout creating their own, just as like a reference to see what could be done with their books. This slide has four of the main illustrators, the children book illustrators that I would teach about at the beginning of this unit. In this slideshow, I also include more in-depth descriptions about each of these artists that you would have access to later on. This would be included in lesson 1. I believe these illustrators would be great to teach about because they are contemporary and my students may make more connections to them since they've seen their work or their books before. Because I do talk about illustrators a lot within my classes. You could also include other children book illustrators if you chose to. These aren't just specific to this lesson or this unit. Lastly, from this unit, here are a few points of what I'd hope my students would learn as a result of teaching this unit and for them to complete the project. The skills learned from this unit, like collaboration and giving and receiving feedback, can be very beneficial to them in their future. This lesson can also get them to start thinking about like other careers that they may want to pursue in the future as well. So I feel like this is a great unit to use if you're wanting to talk about art careers. This could also lead on to other art career units and lessons as well that you could think about. So I just want to thank you so much for listening and learning more about my unit, about teaching illustrations and how to create a children's book in total. So if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask or leave any comments as well about my unit of study. So thank you.